Yes. So, hi, Craig. Thank you very much for this opportunity to interview you.
You're welcome, Nathan. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. So, friends, here is Craig Weigner, and let me introduce more about Craig. So, Craig is one of the international EFT master trainer, and he is the founder of EFT Tapping Training Institute. Also, he conducts, EFT workshops from EFT International, and along with his wife Elena Frank. And let us find out more about Craig and his journey with EFT from him directly. So,
Sure.
Craig, how did you get into EFT?
Um, you know, when I tell the story, I think one of the reasons that what I emphasize about it is for people that get concerned about when they share about EFT to others, and they're concerned about them being skeptical.
Mhm.
Right? A lot of people feel resistance or fear about sharing it with people because they might be skeptical or doubting. And I like to say at the beginning, I was an incredible skeptic.
Mhm.
I started off, I heard about it online and just said, oh, that's a bunch of, malarkey. And so I put it off for a few years before I really looked into it. So
Mhm.
don't be scared of talking to skeptics. They might end up being the greatest advocates and supporters of EFT.
Okay.
So when I first heard about it, I didn't think that there was any way that any technique could help all the different things that EFT helps.
Mhm.
And I'd been in the healing field for about 20 years.
Oh my
I'd been
gosh.
a body worker, massage therapist. I'd been a chiropractor for about 20 years at that point. And so I'd heard and explored a lot of different healing modalities
Mhm.
and tried many. And it just didn't make sense to me how any one thing could do all those things. And
Okay.
then I started to do some research, and then I took a training, and then I started to do more research,
Mhm.
and started to find out I was wrong, and that EFT can help an amazing array of problems. And I quickly became an advocate, and then a practitioner, and then a trainer, and then running a school and certifying practitioners, and all the things that Alina and I do together. So if you have a skeptic out there, keep sharing. Don't push. Don't throw it in somebody's face, but keep being there as a resource or support, holding in your mind, that's what you think right now, but that might change. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for
Mhm.
that advice. And what are your suggestions to the newly certified EFT practitioners?
Yeah. Well, I do want to say a few things about that. First, just how important I think certification is. Um, because depending on, I'm here in the Seattle area in the United States, and many states and different nations around the world have all different kinds of rules and regulations and um, ways that they handle and manage professions. So on one hand, here in the United States, there's no law that says you have to become certified as a practitioner. You could read a book and say, hey, I'm an EFT practitioner.
Certified.
Um, or you can take a one-day online class, because I'm sure there's somebody that's going to say, great, here's a diploma, you're now certified after taking a one-day class. But given the depth of issues that we deal with, um, and the seriousness of those issues and the sensitivity of those issues and the skill that it takes to work skillfully with those issues consistently and safely, that certification is a process of getting mentored and learning and growing and making mistakes and learning more. So the certification process, and there are many, there are several different renowned organizations around the world. Our school is affiliated with EFT International. And that's not the only certification program that requires mentoring. But first, I just want to state how important it is, because the beauty of EFT is how deeply and quickly it goes, right? Or how quickly it goes deeply, really. The danger of EFT is how quickly it goes deeply,
Yes.
right? And here in the United States and Canada and Australia and places we teach, I would say a solid percentage of those people are already licensed practitioners. They're therapists, they're psychologists, but not all of them are. And many practitioners are not licensed mental health care providers. And so it's even more important that they get training and certification. Now, so that was just, I just wanted to really give a plug for the importance of, in our training program, you have to go through, at least 25 different people and 50 sessions and case studies and mentoring and review and that whole process of learning what you know and learning what you don't know and encountering challenges and working with your mentor. So I can't emphasize the importance enough for the safety of yourself, for the safety of your clients, and the effectiveness. So that being said, for certified practitioners, what tip do I have to give for them? Well, I mean, everybody does it for different reasons. If you're doing it for a profession, then you also need to look at it through the eyes of it being a business. Because if you can't stay in business, then you can't continue to do your services unless you're in a position in life where you can be a philanthropist and just say, I have sufficient funds in my life. I can just do this as a volunteer, which is wonderful and so beautiful if you can. But, that's a small percentage of people that can do that. So most people have gone through certification because they're looking at it as a vocation, as a profession, as a career. And therefore it needs to be sustainable and viable. So I would say until most of the world knows what EFT is, which at this point they don't, then advocating for yourself as an EFT practitioner, most people don't know what you're talking about, so they don't know why it would help them.
Yes.
So we run a business program for practitioners after certification, and the first and most important thing we talk about is find a niche, find a specialty, so that you can start to speak about the problem that you work with people about, not about EFT. People don't care about EFT, they care about their problem, whatever that is, their nervousness, their procrastination, their weight, their physical health, their relationship problems, the conflicts in their lives. That's what they care about. That's what they're looking for help with. So as the most important thing that I can say as a certified practitioner is find a niche and find a specialty. Not that you only have to do that specialty, but you have to market yourself and have a focus so that people go, wow, that person understands what I'm feeling. I think I might want to work with that person. I think I can trust that person because they really know a lot about my problem. Okay. So I would say that would be an important consideration.
And art of delivery workshop you offer for the EFT practitioners. Could you please tell about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we offer, so Alina and I work together and offer a variety of programs. I mean, the foundational program that we begin with, we do a self-care program, for example, that's just for people, not for practitioners, but that people that are learning to want, the average person out there that wants to just do EFT for themselves. And then from there is the professional ladder of courses that begins with EFT level 1 and 2, which is the foundational course. Mm-hmm. After that, there's a variety of options. So one of them is called the Art of Delivery. And really that was born out of, we were returning from a training in which we often have people return and repeat trainings for further and deeper learning. And we really just explored, what did we just teach that people still aren't mastering, that they're still missing, that they can still be doing better at? So we decided not to make a course of new techniques. That wasn't the purpose. The purpose was, how do we take all the powerful techniques that are already part of the EFT toolbox and go deeper and fine tune and work with how to make more effective. So really the Art of Delivery we do once a year. We're in the middle of it right now. And it's only for people that have done EFT 1 and 2. It's basically for practitioners that are looking to refine and improve their skills. Now, there are other techniques, level 3 we do online once a year now. We can do that online. We teach matrix reimprinting, which is so powerful. Unfortunately, we have to teach that not online, but just in person. We don't have the option of doing it online at this point. But that's incredibly powerful. And then we have other courses for different things. So the school, we provide continuing education for beginning people to become a practitioner, for practitioners to increase their skills, like tapping out of trauma, for example, is only for people that have done 1 and 2 for deepening, tapping out of trauma 1 and 2. And so we teach more and more how to work safely and effectively, specifically with trauma. And we have a business program. So, you know, the things that we develop really come out of the needs of practitioners saying, we want more of that. We'd like to hear more and learn more about that. And that's really where things come from that we create.
Okay. And Craig, does an EFT practitioner need to have a psychology background or a professional degree?
Mm-hmm. The answer is no. I'm not going to say that's not helpful, because it is in some ways. So in some ways, it's a huge advantage because you have the licensure and training to work deeply one-on-one with people. Now, that being said, I will also say that I'm not a licensed psychologist or psychotherapist. And having trained hundreds and hundreds, I would say that many of them will say, even though they're a licensed psychotherapist or licensed counselor or psychologist, that they received very little training in working with trauma, sometimes none. And that, you know, for me, the first time I heard that, I said, how could that be? But there's so many other things that they need to learn. And unfortunately, only recently has there been a renewed focus on trauma as a part of the psychotherapeutic profession, more so in the last decade. So many licensed people will say, this is new to me. I've never been trained in working with trauma. Also, licensed professionals learning how to do EFT have to unlearn things too, and that can be really difficult and challenging for them. So they'll be the first ones to admit that, where I can see somebody that comes in new and I can kind of mold them and say, do this and do this and do this and do this and ask that, etc. And sometimes at the beginning, they have a much easier path to becoming skillful. Now, they still don't have the background and training and consideration that a licensed mental health care professional does. So the simple answer to your question is, depending on the country and the laws of the country and the professional guidelines, etc., you don't generally have to have a psychology degree or license to be an EFT practitioner. And given that most practitioners work not just in person, but online, you have to have, around the world, you just have to be aware of the considerations and legalities of who you're working with and where and what topics you're working with or not. I'm pretty conservative, to be very honest, and careful. So if somebody were a new practitioner and they said, wow, I really want to help the people that lived through the massacre in my town, or I really want to work with veterans or people in the military that have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, I'm going to tend to recommend that they don't.
Yes.
Not without the skill set, whether they're licensed or unlicensed. So, you know, there are many different things to take into consideration of what I think is safe for the skill set of any practitioner to work with. And not everybody agrees with me, but for me, my primary concern is always the safety and well-being of the client. So.
And Craig, you have created a lot of products like DVD courses, and here is like shifting the aspects. Could you please explain about that?
I think what you're saying, what you're speaking about is that after workshops, people don't remember a lot of things, or we don't get to go in as much detail as we like.
Yeah.
So people started asking for more about these things. And so what you're mentioning is we've created a number of products that actually now all come on a flash drive instead of the DVDs or CDs, because you know technology changes, and we're dating ourselves. And you know, luckily we never put anything on cassettes or 8-tracks or you know. So anyway, so they're on flash drives now, or just downloadable. And what we found is some of the most important concepts that we teach in a level 1 and 2 are things like the importance of being specific, understanding shifting aspects, understanding psychological reversals, and all of these are foundational concepts in a EFT level 1 and 2 training. For example, the importance of being specific for me is probably the most important concept, and that is the hardest for EFT practitioners to become skillful at. You know, when people start tapping on global statements or very big statements like, even though I have all this grief in my life, even though I have all, you know, I'm angry all the time, even though I'm worried about, you know, what COVID is doing to the world, even though I'm, you know, when we start to tap on what are called tabletops, or when we start to tap on very large ideas that have hundreds of implications or hundreds of experiences that we have to do with, not only do they not make as much real progress, but they often become emotionally overwhelmed and start becoming emotionally flooded with tears or anger that's so big that's not really a safe and gentle and effective way of working. So becoming skillful at specific examples, and, you know, with practitioners, can you give me an example of the last time you felt that way? When's the next time that that's going to happen? And so when we take bite-sized pieces of something emotionally very charged, the brain can handle small pieces.
Yes.
The brain can the body can handle a single example of the time that dad was very angry at me, et cetera, et cetera. But when I go to all the times. So anyway, so that product has to do with skills about getting more specific. Understanding, you know, problems I have often with, you know, tap-alongs and generic tapping is that people often do round after round of tapping when underneath things are shifting and changing. And so I'm still tapping on feeling angry at my dad, but now I'm really feeling hopeless about it, that it's never going to change, but I'm tapping on something multiple rounds without checking in. So things, you know, tapping tunes us in, and our attention and our brain body associative memory switch, because that then makes me feel this way, which then is connected to that, which is connected to that, which reminds me of that. And if as a practitioner or tapping on ourselves, we're not following those things, then we're not tapping on what is most relevant and present for us. So shifting aspects is a lot about tracking and working and understanding how to work with the shifts and changes that happen. The other one you're mentioning, psychological reversals, or
Yes.
another. So there are many different ones, but you know, these are the three that are the most foundational. Is an important concept that's mostly spoken of in terms of what's called a secondary gain. And what that means is when people are trying so hard to change something in their life, to resolve a health issue, to get over a problem, to resolve a conflict, and over time they have adapted to that new problem. They've adapted to the back pain. They've adapted to not being able to work. They've adapted to having something. And then they're trying very hard to get rid of it or resolve it. But there's a small part of them that's usually subconscious that's saying, it doesn't feel so safe to get rid of that. You know, I've been off work now because of the injury. And of course I want to resolve the injury, but you know what? I like not having to get up at 5 in the morning. And I kind of like being around my family more. And I like, right? So there's a small part of them that's usually subconscious that is starting to say, maybe we shouldn't get better. Maybe you don't want to get all the way better. So how do we safely and gently and effectively work with those subconscious parts that don't feel ready or safe enough to resolve the problem? So anyway, so yes, we have different products online about different subjects and reframing and this and that and et cetera. So they're all on the website. But you know, the whole purpose of anything that we create, whether it's a course or a product, especially for practitioners, to help them improve their skill sets.
Yes. And amazing products, Craig, for the practitioners, no matter where they are certified from, but they are always useful.
Sure.
And Craig, what inspired you to establish the EFT Tapping Institute?
You know, when I first began, Alina had trained with Gary Craig, the founder of EFT.
Okay.
And so when I had an office and I was putting on presentations, and I had invited Alina, who I didn't know at that time, to speak about EFT. And we had a conversation like this,
Okay.
in person, back when we did everything in person. And that went wonderfully well. And so I decided to take a training in EFT, and I took a training in EFT, and I got more involved with EFT and integrated it more into my chiropractic practice with patients. And pretty soon started just helping Alina at her trainings. And she was doing training, so I would support and assist. And then I would start to teach the science part. And then I would start to teach this part. And I worked my way till, over many years to being practitioner, trainer, etc. And really the school came organically out of that process of starting to be asked to travel more and travel to Canada and travel to the UK and Australia, etc. Alina's reputation was certainly strong in there before mine. And I brought a different skill set. So the EFT Tapping Training Institute really came out of the more formal training, mentoring, certification. For many years we taught for EFT Universe, and then we taught for a different organization, and then we started training for matrix reimprinting, and then became affiliated with EFT International. So, as our reputation grew and the amount of teaching and training grew, the school really came out of that. And programs that still come out of that are based on the needs of what people ask for.
Okay. And about EFT MBA program, could you please explain how it evolved? Why was it designed?
Yeah, I want to thank you. You're being very generous with your questions, and I don't want to say it's uncomfortable, but having so much focus on our programs makes me almost want to talk about another subject. But I will answer your questions because I don't want this just to be promotional. But what we found, the problem is that many practitioners that came out and went through certification were often inspired by either things they experienced with EFT or loved ones experienced with EFT, and they became inspired and passionate and went through the EFT training, and then they were launched, and then they were ready, and then nobody came to their door. And they were good practitioners. And I'd like to say that being a good EFT practitioner is enough to have a thriving financial business. But it's not. People generally don't hire EFT practitioners to be a salaried employee in their company yet. So all of a sudden, people found themselves in private practice as entrepreneurs and not having the skill sets to be able to market themselves or be an entrepreneur, because basically you have to be. And not only that, but you're at a disadvantage because if you speak with 100 people, and I don't know, what city do you live in, Nizam?
Bangalore, India.
Okay.
Bangalore.
So if you put 1,000 people in the square, in the center of Bangalore, how many of them know what EFT is?
I don't know. Very
3, 4, right?
Yes.
So how do you market something that nobody knows what it is?
Yes.
That's like saying, I have this new food. You'll love it. Doesn't tend to be an instant hit. People are like, it looks weird. It's funny. What do you call it? What is this? I look at this weird thing and they're saying, oh, it's the best thing. And I'm like, it doesn't look very good. I don't know. It looks kind of weird. And so, so that makes it very hard to market a business that nobody knows what it is. Let alone if you've never been an entrepreneur, let alone if perhaps you have concerns about how to actually put yourself out there, let alone create a website, social media, do podcasts, create blogs, let alone the emotional fears and worries and, all of the different aspects like that. So basically people, again, started asking, well, what do you do? How do you do that? How do you do that? And really out of that came first a 6-month program and then a 12-month program for defining your niche, creating a website, how to get all your paperwork and intake process, and how do you work with this type of client, and how do you promote yourself via social media, and how do you do, how do you run online classes and all those things. So really the MBA starts really May of each year, and is a year program for helping practitioners to be able to market their business using tapping to get over the fears and worries and doubts, etc. I mean, that's where the MBA came from. And then we started having people saying, yeah, but we don't have a good tool to describe EFT or the science of EFT, or the research of EFT. And so that became a 5-year project to create a documentary called The Science of Tapping, that people could then share with people, that document and talk about the research and science as a valid way to have people be less skeptical about EFT. So again, all these different projects, come out of a need that we tried to fill, or becomes evident as needed, right?
Thank you very much, Craig, because I know right from how did you get into EFT, out of delivery, various products. The reason for asking is like some people are curious to know what EFT is. Some people who are already certified, they want to enhance their skills, but what kind of products are available, what kind of books are available, what are the various programs available to enhance their skills, to promote their business. So that's why I wanted to connect to various EFT experts and put all these at one place. And I'm very happy for having you here, and thanks for answering all my questions.
You're welcome. Thank you for offering resources. I'd love to hear right now. I mean, I imagine you're reaching throughout India and throughout the world, because obviously you're online. And I would love to know ways that I can support the work that you're doing. Of course, however this interview can help, but it seems as if India is a growing body of interest for EFT right now. Am I noticing that correctly?
Yes, Greg. Slowly here, the EFT is now getting a visibility, is what I can say.
That's wonderful, because we really need it to spread throughout the world. And, there are many techniques. EFT is not the only one. We happen to be passionate about EFT together. We share that. So I'll send you some links and resources, whether it's the trauma training or the science of tapping movie or this or that, and you can have those. And any way that if anybody ever wants to speak with me or help, I'm happy to help any way that I can, practitioners. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you once again.